The guy who won the confrontation at that party last night, he's the one who said nothing. Not the guy with the perfect comeback. The comeback is the most expensive way to lose you pay with your heart rate, your evening, and 10 replays in the shower. Almost everyone gets this backwards. Here's what the calm ones know that you don't. They know that every insult is an invoice. Someone hands you a bill for your anger, your explanation, your hurt, and hopes you pay on the spot. In the next few minutes, you'll learn to spot that invoice the second it slides across the table and 3 ways to hand it back unpaid. No comebacks to memorize, no pretending it doesn't sting. After this, nobody collects from you again. Welcome to Unspoken. But first, let's talk about you. Because I think I know you. From the outside, you look easygoing. You're the one who lets things slide. Someone throws a jab at you in the group chat and you send back the laughing emoji. A coworker talks over you in the meeting and you just let him. People probably describe you as chill, easy to be around, doesn't make drama. But underneath, there's a different story, isn't there? Underneath, you're the person lying awake at 2 in the morning running the scene again. Except this time you say the thing. The perfect thing. Sharp, calm, devastating. You've won arguments in the shower that ended 6 years ago. You still remember a comment someone made about you at a barbecue, not the whole barbecue, just that one sentence, preserved in amber, word for word. And here's the fear you don't say out loud. The fear that your silence isn't calm at all, that everyone can see through it. That when you didn't respond, the room quietly filed you under weak, and that every person who's ever tested you walked away knowing they could do it again. So you live in this awful middle place, too self-aware to lash out, too stung to actually let it go. Fighting feels beneath you, and swallowing it feels like losing. There's a third door. Almost nobody sees it, because it's not in the words at all, it's in the paperwork. We'll open that door in a minute. First, let me give you something you can use tonight before you even understand why it works. The next time someone takes a shot at you, a jab, a dig, a little comment with a smile stapled to it, do exactly 2 things. First, wait 3 seconds. Don't fill the silence. 3 full seconds, which in a conversation feels like a small eternity. Then, with a flat, mildly curious voice, the voice you'd use to ask what time the pharmacy closes, say, "Huh, why would you say that?" That's it. No comeback, no defense, no edge in your tone, and that part matters. This only works if it sounds like a real question, not a challenge. Watch what happens. The person who made the comment now has to explain it, out loud, in front of whoever's listening. A joke that has to be explained is already dead, and an insult that has to be explained becomes a confession. They wanted a reaction, instead they got homework. Most people fold right there, "I was just kidding," and the whole thing dies on the table. Now that little move works, but it's the surface version, because the real question isn't what to say when someone disrespects you. The real question is what's actually being handed to you in that moment, and once you see it, actually see it, you can't be collected from again. So let me show you. Picture a family dinner. Not a movie version, a real one. Mismatched chairs. Someone's phone going off in another room. Your uncle across the table working through his second helping, not even looking up when he says it. Still doing that little job of yours? Little. One word, tucked in like a splinter. And feel what your body does. It happens before you have a single thought. Heat crawls up the back of your neck. Your grip tightens on the fork. Your chest goes tense, like something inside just sat up. And climbing up your throat, already forming, is the explanation. Actually, it's going really well, we just landed a new client, and my manager said, "Stop, freeze the scene right there. Fork in the air, heat in your face, explanation halfway up your throat. Because something just happened at that table, and almost nobody ever sees it. Your uncle slid a piece of paper across the dinner table. Invisible but real. An invoice, and on it, an itemized bill. One flustered explanation of your career. One defense of your entire life, delivered to a man eating potatoes. Your evening's piece, that's on there too, in the fine print. He didn't attack you, that's the part that makes it slippery. An attack you'd see coming. This is quieter than that. It's a bill for a debt you never agreed to, handed over with a smile. In front of the people whose opinion of you matters most. And that hit in your face? That's your hand, reaching for the pen. Every insult you've ever received worked exactly like this. The words were never the weapon. The words were just the delivery. What actually arrived, what's sitting next to your plate right now, is the paperwork. So let's talk about why your brain wants so badly to sign it. Why does your brain reach for the pen? Because it was built to. Free researchers, free pieces of the machine. Start with a sociologist named Erving Goffman, who spent his whole career watching ordinary conversations the way other scientists watch ant colonies. His conclusion: every social interaction is a quiet negotiation over something he called face your standing, your value in the room. Every sentence anyone speaks carries a little price tag on it, an implied statement of what you're worth. Most of the time the numbers match and nobody notices. But when your uncle says that little job, he's not making small talk. He's writing down a lower number for you in public and waiting to see if you'll accept the appraisal. Goffman understood that we don't argue about words. We argue about the price. Now, why can't you just shrug it off? That's the second piece. Psychologist Daniel Goleman popularized the term amygdala, hijack the moment your brain's threat alarm fires, before your thinking brain even gets a look at the situation. That alarm evolved for snakes and rival tribes, and here's the problem. It can't tell the difference between a threat to your body and a threat to your price. The hit in your face, the tight chest, the fork grip that's the hijack. Your body has already signed for the package before your rational mind has read the label. Which means willpower alone will always be too slow. You can't outdiscipline a reflex that beats you to the punch by half a second. So, are you just stuck? No, and this is the third piece. A Stanford psychologist named James Gross has spent decades comparing what people do with unwanted emotions. Two main strategies. 1. Suppression, feel the sting, hide it, hold the smile. 2. Reappraisal, change what the event means before the feeling fully forms. And the results aren't close. Suppression is expensive. In Gross's studies, people who suppress carry a higher physiological load, the stress stays in the body, and their memory of the interaction actually gets worse. Meanwhile, the people who reappraise, who file the comment under something other than attack, their nervous system barely spikes at all. Listen to that again. Swallowing it costs you. Reinterpreting it is nearly free. Put the three together and here's the machine. Goffman, every insult is a price tag. Goleman, your body signs for it automatically. Gross, the only cheap move is changing what the paper means before you pay. Your brain, left on default, is a terrible accountant. It pays every invoice that arrives, no questions asked, and files the receipt at 2 in the morning. But the people sending those invoices, they're not random. There are 4 of them, 4 collectors, and I'd bet money you know all 4 by name. Each one sends a different kind of invoice, each one wants a different payment, and each one has a tell. As I walk through them, notice which one made your stomach drop. That's the one running a tap on you right now. Collector number 1, the tester. The tester is the guy from the party. A stranger or almost one you've met twice, maybe. And that's exactly why he does it. He doesn't know where you rank in this room, so he runs an experiment, and the experiment is you. They look up and down, the smirk. Nice shirt. Did you lose a bet? Always with an audience, that's his tell. A tester never tests in private, because in private, there's nothing to win. His invoice isn't personal. That's the strange part. He'd have sent it to whoever was standing where you're standing. What he's billing you for is a public sample of your composure, because the room is watching how you handle it. And your reaction sets your price in front of everyone. Here's what the tester understands that most of his targets don't. He's not trying to beat you. He's trying to get you to beat yourself. If you flare up, you paid. If you deflate, you paid. If you fire back the perfect line with a shaking voice, you paid retail with interest. The tester's whole business runs on one assumption that your composure is for sale and cheap. Nothing bankrupts him faster than a target who finds him mildly, warmly amusing. A tester who gets tested back doesn't come back for round 2. He moves down the bar, looking for someone whose price is lower. Collector number 2, the Joker. The Joker is smoother and honestly meaner. His invoice comes gift-wrapped. He says the real thing, the one that lands right on the bruise, and then, when your face changes, he plays his card. Relax. It's just a joke. And here's the trap. And it's a beautiful piece of engineering. The joker isn't beating you for the insult. He's beating you for your reaction to it. He's pre-written the story where any response you make is proof you're too sensitive. Object, and you can't take a joke. Go quiet, and you're sulking. Laugh along, and you've just co-signed the whole thing. Now the joke has your signature on it too, and he'll cite it next time. The Joker is the only collector who makes you pay for the privilege of being heard. Watch his eyes though, that's his tell. A real joke, the teller watches the joke, he's in it with you, waiting to laugh together. The Joker watches you. He's not waiting for the laugh, he's waiting for the flinch. The flinch is the payment. And one more thing about him, the part nobody says out loud. The Joker only jokes downward. Notice it. He never makes that kind of joke about the person in the room he's afraid of, which tells you everything about what the joke actually is. A bill he'd never dare hand to someone he thinks can refuse it. Collector number 3, the Auditor. The Auditor never insults you. Ask anyone, she's lovely. Her invoices arrive printed on compliments. You look amazing today, so different. Good for you. Speaking up in the meeting, I could never just say things without overthinking them. Wow, you got the promotion? They must really be loosening the requirements. No, I'm kidding. Congratulations. Each one lands, and for a half second you almost say thank you. Then it reaches your stomach, and your stomach does the math your ears missed. So different from what, exactly? The Auditor's tell is that little delay. Her sentences taste sweet going down and burn on the way through, and if you complain, you sound insane. She complimented you. That's her genius. She bills you in a currency you can't show anyone. The Auditor is doing an audit of your looks, your career, your relationship, and publishing her findings inside a greeting card. What she's collecting is subtler than the tester or the Joker. She wants you a little smaller, a little less sure, while she stays certified nice. And because you can never point to the moment it happened, you pay her invoice alone, hours later, standing in front of a mirror, wondering why you feel 3 inches shorter after such a pleasant lunch. And then there's collector number 4, the one that hurts, the old collector. The old collector is family, or might as well be. The uncle at the dinner table, the mother who asks if you're really wearing that. The friend from high school who still introduces you with a story from when you were 17. The old collector's invoices are ancient recurring bills on auto-send, addressed to a version of you that stopped existing years ago. And that's what makes this the hardest collector of all. The tester is a stranger, you can walk away, but the old collector knows your account numbers. They were there when your insecurities were installed, some of them, honestly, they did the installing. They know exactly which button, exactly which decade, exactly which tone. And here's the uncomfortable truth about the old collector. Half the time, they don't even know they're doing it. It's not always malice. It's habit. You've been paying this bill for so long that the payment is just part of who you are to each other. The flinch is built into the relationship like a groove worn into a floorboard. Which is why your comebacks never work on them. You can't out-argue a groove. The only thing that changes it is the day the payment doesn't arrive, the day the button gets pressed, the old machine returns and nothing comes out. I'll show you what that looks like at the dinner table before we're done. 4 collectors, 4 kinds of paper, but every one of them depends on the same weakness, and here's the twist. That weakness of yours isn't a weakness at all. Here's what all 4 collectors are counting on, that you feel everything. The tester needs you to register the smirk, the Joker needs the flinch, the Auditor needs your stomach to do the math. The old collector needs the groove. Your sensitivity is the doorbell they all ring. And I know what you've made that mean about yourself. You've spent years wishing you were thicker-skinned, watching people who let everything roll off, and thinking, that's what I'm supposed to be. You've treated your radar like a defect. It's not a defect, it's resolution. Think about what that radar actually does. You caught the word little in a 9-word sentence mid-dinner before your fork hit the plate. You detected the half-second delay in the auditor's compliment. You can feel the temperature of a room change when someone walks in wrong. That's not weakness, that's high-end social hardware. The person who doesn't notice insults isn't stronger than you. Half the time he's just running blurrier equipment. He's not refusing the invoice. He never saw it arrive. You see everything. Your only problem is what happens next, the machinery that takes each detection and routes it straight to the payment department. Detection and payment have been welded together your whole life, so you assumed they were one thing. There are two things. Because look at what your radar becomes the day you unweld them. The same sensitivity that made you the easiest person in the room to hurt makes you the hardest person in the room to fool. You clock the tester before he finishes his sentence, you can hear him deciding to say it. You spot the Joker's eyes on the wrong target. You read motives the way other people read weather. Everything I'm about to show you only works because of the radar you've spent your whole life apologizing for. A blunt person can't do this. It takes someone who feels the paper slide across the table. So hold on to this line, it's the whole video in 2 sentences. Disrespect is an invoice, not a verdict. And an invoice only becomes a debt when you sign it. You've had the pen in your hand your whole life. Time to learn the other 3 things you can do with the paper. 3 moves. Together they cover every collector, every invoice, every room. I call the whole kit return to sender. Move 1. Read it out loud. This is the deep version of the pharmacy question from earlier. When the invoice arrives, don't argue with it, make the sender read it to the room. Flat voice, real curiosity. Why would you say that? What do you mean by little? So different from what? Watch what this does. Every insult works as an insinuation. The meaning travels under the words, and everyone pretends the surface is all there is. Your question drags the cargo into the light. Now the auditor has to either say the cruel thing plainly and become, officially in front of witnesses, the person who says cruel things or back out. No, I just meant, you look great. Either way, you never defended anything, you just held the paper up and asked whose handwriting this was. Here's the catch though, and it's the whole move. It only works if you actually want the answer. Ask it like a trap and it's a fight. Ask it like you're mildly puzzled and it's a mirror. Move 2. Overpay. Absurdly. Some invoices you shouldn't question. You should pay them 1,000 times over, in cash, laughing. Still doing that little job of yours? Tiny. Microscopic. Some mornings I can't even find it. The collector priced the insult assuming you'd flinch at face value. You just handed him a suitcase of money and made the whole exchange ridiculous. There's nothing left to collect. You can't shake down a man who's already emptying his pockets and grinning. This is the move for testers and jokers, because it kills the one thing they need, the gap between what they said and what you can bear to hear. No gap, no leverage, and the room doesn't remember the insult anymore. It remembers your line. Move 3. File it unopened. Sometimes the answer is nothing. No reply, no eyebrow, no half-second freeze. The comment arrives and you keep buttering the bread not one bit late, not one word louder. But understand the difference because it's everything. Hurt silence and sovereign silence look nothing alike and everyone can tell them apart. Hurt silence drops its eyes and finds the exit. Sovereign silence keeps its shoulders loose, its breathing slow, and stays exactly where it was, mid-story, mid-bite, as if the words were weather. Filed. Unopened. And the sender stands there holding the delivery confirmation for a package that never existed. One warning before we finish. These are not comeback scripts. If you memorize them and lie in ambush, running every conversation like a sting operation, you've just signed a different invoice, the one that says social life is combat. That guy isn't unbothered. He's permanently braced. The moves aren't the power. The moves are what power looks like from the outside. The power is the unwell detection without payment. Get that? And the 3 moves will come out of you on their own, in your own words, better than anything I could script. So come back to the dinner table one last time, same mismatched chairs, same uncle, same potatoes, same 9 words. Still doing that little job of yours? But this time, watch you. The heat starts up the back of your neck. It still comes. It may always come. That's the radar doing its job. And then, nothing follows it. The fork doesn't tighten. The explanation stays down. You feel the paper slide across the table and you look at it with something close to interest. There's the invoice. Maybe you ask, mild as anything, little how, and watch him blink. Maybe you just smile and pass the potatoes. The old machinery turns and for the first time in 20 years nothing comes out, dinner just continues. That's the whole miracle. It looks like nothing. It's everything. And here's what you can't see from inside that moment. Somewhere down the table, someone younger is watching. A kid, a niece, a little brother, someone whose own radar is just getting installed. For years, they've been learning the family curriculum. This is what we do when the jab comes. Flinch, explain, shrink. Tonight the lesson changed. They watched the button get pressed, and they watched nothing happen. And something in them quietly filed that away. Oh, you're allowed to not pay. Every invoice you decline for two people. The you at this table and the you at 17 who signed everything, who thought the bills were verdicts, who paid for years out of an account that was never actually overdrawn. You can't go back and stir up their paperwork, but you can stop the mail. So here's my question for you, and I read every answer down there. Which collector runs a tab on you? The tester at the party? The joker with his gift-wrapped bills? The auditor and her poisoned compliments? Or the old collector at the dinner table? Tell me below and tell me which move you're trying first, because someone reading the comments tonight has the same collector you do, and your story might be the thing that finally lets them put the pen down. If this found you at the right time, a like helps more people see it, and subscribing means the next one finds you too. This is Unspoken. Stop signing.